Welcome back to the Isn't That Rich podcast. Today we are exploring the world of personal financial apps. So there are so many options out there today. It's hard to know which one is best for you. And today the marketing team is back to talk about why we're in the search for a new app and what to look for when searching, and give you some pros and cons on the ones that we've done some research on. I was recently in the search for a new personal finance app. So I used mint.com, which kept all my finances. It's just like a screenshot. So you could see all your investment accounts. You could see all your bank accounts. I have several different locations. So it was a place where I could keep everything organized and see just a snapshot of my finances all in one place. Well, in February of this year, they're like, well, we're no longer going to exist. So they kind of just up and were like, we're done. I think they sold out to Intuit. And when they closed up shop, they essentially told all their customers, hey, go to Intuit. So everybody that was their customer essentially looked at Intuit, but they don't have a really great budgeting tool. And for me, seeing a snapshot of all of my financials, I like to have a budget in mind. And so that was one of the tools that I really, really enjoyed of that mint.com. And so I was on the search to find something else that would kind of fill that void that mint.com left. And so I thought it'd be really great to talk about the tools today. So, yeah.
Maybe I have. I definitely don't use like a personal finance app now.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. Sometimes I use EveryDollar by Dave Ramsey.
And that's one of the apps that we're going to talk about.
Oh, cool.
And I love it. I love EveryDollar. I think it's a really great option. But there are lots of options out there. So when I was researching them, I'm like, I don't know which one I should use.
Yeah. So why should we use a personal finance app?
For me, it's tracking my spending.
Like I look at you to talk to me. Start over. Okay, so why should we use a personal finance app? Like what's so good about them?
For me, it's tracking my spending. So you all know that I like to keep a close eye on what I'm actually spending nowadays. And so for this, I have several bank accounts and I have several business accounts. And so it was just really hard to keep everything. Log in for this one, log in for US Bank, log in for wherever all my stuff is. It was really hard to get a clear snapshot. And so tracking my spending is my number one reason why I have this personal finance app. And I like to budget. I like to be able to say, okay, this month I only have $3,000 to spend or whatever it is, right? And how do I stay within that goal?
Mm-hmm. How do you feel like that's kind of helped you using it?
Well, it's funny because it's so easy to spend money, especially with credit cards and online shopping nowadays. It's just really hard to stay within a budget if you're not keeping an eye on it. And so when that Amazon purchase hits and I can see that I spent this much money on miscellaneous or that new matching top and bottom set that I didn't need, right? Like I'm spending way too much money on clothing this month, so I need to scale back or not spend any money for a little bit. So it's really helped me budget. It's helped me save. And it's really cool too because I can see the money that I invest each month. So it kind of helps follow that as well. So it just tracks that. Yeah.
I'm new to the app. So I'm like, all right, what do I need to be looking for? Like what are like some important features and those kinds of things? Like for you, like what are important features that you're looking for in that app?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There are so the first thing is I like to make it easy to use. Like mint.com was so user friendly. Like you could log in and everything was right there. It was so intuitive. So that's been the hardest hurdle when it comes to finding a new financial app is like, what is as easy as mint.com? It's got to be easy to use.
I feel like so many apps can be so complicated too. That's like for me, I'm like, it has to be super user friendly. Otherwise I'm not going to like want to check it.
Well, you know? I get bummed out when I get an app. I'm a super stickler on this. Like I hate to buy an app. I don't want to buy.
You don't want to purchase it.
It burns me up to purchase an app. And so if I've like been using something for a month and they're like, you got to pay $4.99, girl, to see the rest of your finances. It makes me so irritated. So that's a lot of the time why I don't do a lot of these apps, because they are making money off you. But I will say in the same breath, I do think it's probably worth it if you are trying to get your finances into one place.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, expensive apps aren't really going to help you. It just depends on the opportunity cost, right? So like if you're not using it to the best of its capabilities, it's not easy to use and it's expensive, then why
Don't use it.
Why would you?
To waste money.
Yeah, it's a waste of money. You know, the benefit is not going to outweigh the, the advantage. So for sure has to be the right price range. So that's probably the second thing I would look at. What's the price of having this?
Yeah.
Does it make sense for me? It's really important that it syncs up with all the banks. So there are some apps out there that won't integrate Farmers State Bank. It's a smaller community bank. So if I can't transfer all of my information from Farmers onto this app, I'm not going to use it. Like that's one of the things that if it doesn't check that box or integrate well, like I'm just not going to use the app. So that's another thing I look for.
I think security too, because I think if you've got all my information of all of these different accounts, like that's a little troubling.
I know.
When you think about it. So you really want to make sure, they have 2-factor authentication.
Which, how annoying.
It's annoying.
It's so annoying.
It's like less than a minute. It's fine. It's to keep you safe.
So important. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did I sign in today? It was like my Microsoft Teams I had to sign into, and it makes you like enter a code now on it, and I'm like, man, this is a pain in the butt, but it does keep us safe and keeps it secure. So for sure, security.
Yeah.
I think something that I would want to see is like expense categorization. So like, how am I spending? Is it like all of it going in this bucket type of thing? Like,
where's yours going, Jared?
Food.
KFC.
But
KFC is like this giant pie on here.
It is. But I feel like if it categorizes it, I feel like you can see it from more of an aerial perspective, which helps you make probably more.
Yeah. And something I've noticed in a lot of the apps out there is, we have a budgeting tool inside Farmers State Bank, but it doesn't always categorize things the way it should be. So like if I spend something at Target, like I mentioned earlier, it was like, is it really on clothing? Is it on household goods? Like you have to be able, it has to allow you to go in there and change the category to what it actually was. A lot of things just assume, and then it's hard to go back. So making sure that there's an app where you can update it and change it, that's important too.
That's a great feature.
Yeah, for sure.
I think goal setting's a big one. We have that in our app. And I think it's really cool because if you're trying to, save for a down payment on a house, maybe you're a down payment on a car, or you're just wanting to save $1,000 emergency fund, like that's a big thing. And so to kind of keep track of that, I think that's a big thing to have within an app.
Yeah. Even if it's short-term goals, like even if you're saving for a vacation, you want something that is helping you work towards that, to see it visually. That always helps me anyway.
That's probably where you're going to get the most value by paying for an app like that, is by utilizing it as a tool to set really clear goals. If not, it's just, you're just looking at it. But if you can set goals, then there's an investment there.
Yeah. Speaking of investments, like being able to monitor where I'm investing is really important too. So not only does it need to integrate with Farmers State Bank, it also has to integrate with my Charles Schwab account or whatever I'm investing in. It's got to be able to integrate that one too. So monitoring my investing is really important to me.
Because don't you feel like with investments, like for me, I can invest in something and then it's like out of my brain. Like I'm like, I don't know what I even own right now.
Well, when was the last time you looked inside what your investments did? Probably your quarterly statement, right? So with this personal finance, like it's kind of giving you updated information all the time. So another thing it does is it alerts me. Like if I spend over a certain amount in a category for my budget, like it's going to alert you like, hey, you're 95% to your budget for the month. Maybe
I know, and you're like, for food, you're like, it's only day 10. Like, that's like legit happened to me before. Yes, break out your cash.
Yeah,
you're like using cash to hide from your budget app.
Exactly. But alerts and notifications are super important too. So finding an app that can do that.
I crack up because like, I mean, this isn't within a personal finance app, but like on my credit card, it will like alert me as soon as something's purchased. And every time it alerts me, I'm like, oh, who did that?
Fraud.
Like, but it's me. Fraud. But it's always me. I'm like, who spent $200 on the skincare store? Like, it's me.
Or this is something that happened to me is we stayed at an Airbnb last summer, and it takes out a chunk of money right when you make the reservation. And then 6 months later, when I had forgotten about the reservation, like all of a sudden it took another, like the same amount. And I'm like, what is this? I don't even know what our house, what is that?
Yeah.
I did not make that transaction. I think I literally called my credit card company and said, fraud, like I need to cancel this.
She's like in this beautiful mansion. It's fraudulent.
No, but since inside this, it categorizes the spending so I could see the past transaction that I made from that same thing.
Yeah.
So I came to the conclusion it was actually for our Airbnb.
So does it 6 months later?
It did it 6 months later because I made that reservation so far in advance.
Wow.
So yeah, but I completely forgot about it.
Oh gosh.
So
That
There's
sounds like
no-
I've done that.
Yeah. There's like nothing like when you purchase something and you just like, or it doesn't make sense. Like, so for instance, have you ever been in the gas station and they'll charge you either $1 or like a crazy amount? It was like Casey's in Harrisburg one time and they charge you like $79 for gas. And that's outrageous for my car. And I was in there like arguing with the Casey's girl. She's like, I don't know. And I was like, oh, well, sometimes it says on there, like it will change the price of your purchase like upfront, and then it like will adjust it back. It's super weird, but I don't know,
interesting.
kind of similar story.
Yeah,
Not really, but
for sure. But it's
I don't know. I just wanted to talk about that.
Sounds traumatic.
It was really traumatic. First world problems.
But I would just kind of say the things I'm looking for. It has to be easy to use.
Yeah.
It's got to be able to synchronize with my bank and my investment accounts. And I love being able to have the budgeting tools and the categorizing that. So yeah.
Cool. So we've got looks like some apps here to go through.
Yeah, so I did some research on 5 apps. And one of them was that EveryDollar, Dave Ramsey. It actually does a really, really great job. And we can talk about that one first.
Okay.
It does a really great job for budgeting. So if you're looking for a great budget app, that would be my number one recommendation for sure.
It's super simple too. Like when you plug in a number and then when you use that amount, it just like whoop, whoop, flip flops them. So it's really cool. And it has all these categories that you can put it in. I think it's nice because it even gives you like recommendations for like how much you should be spending in each category.
Right. And especially if you're like a first time budgeter, like if you're creating your budget for the first time, you have no idea what is even a reasonable amount to spend on your house each month or on your groceries each month. It's really hard to come up with that average without like looking back at your history of spending. And if you're looking to you start saving, like Jared, you're talking about spending a bunch of money on food, right? Like maybe that's where you need to be like, okay, I'm spending 50% of my money on food rather. So having that recommendation is pretty awesome.
Yeah. I like it. It really is super easy. And there's a free version. And then I think you can pay more and then it will integrate with your bank. So anytime you swipe your card, it will then automatically, instead of you having to manually go in there and type in like those purchases, it just recognizes it and then pulls it in there.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
So if you went to the gas station, you swiped and then in your EveryDollar app, it's going to like drop it down.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're not like doing a check registry, or check registration every single time with every single purchase. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like it. That's one I use.
Yeah. It's really good.
I should use it more.
I know. It's good for expense tracking, like you said, and even goal setting. So we talked about setting goals for your money. It's awesome for that. Like you can type it in, even if it's different from what the recommendation, you can type in what your goal is and it'll tell you. It's kind of cool because it keeps it monitors it. And so it can tell you you're 90% to your goal or you're 70% to your goal this month. It's kind of cool.
Do you use it and pay for it? Do you?
I did once. I do not right now.
Okay.
Yeah. But
Do you know how much it costs for the non-free version?
I don't know, but let's just say Dave Ramsey's making a killing off.
Yeah. That's something.
He's making a killing off telling everyone to cut up their credit cards. Yeah. Let's just say that.
So another one that I looked at was, and it was probably my favorite one out of all these because it does integrate with your investments. So I think that was one thing like the EveryDollar was kind of missing is like it's not showing you.
Yeah,
what's
it's definitely
Yeah.
simplified, like not.
Yeah. So this is called, it's called You Need a Budget, and it's the abbreviation for the app. If you're buying it on the App Store, it's YNAB, You Need a Budget, right? So it's super budget focused. It allows for that goal setting, and it gives you really detailed reporting. So when you're wanting like the details, the real snapshot of what your financials are doing, that's the one. That's the one to use for sure. It's expensive. Like you can't just do a free version of it. It's like you have to pay the subscription version. So, and it's not as intuitive as the other ones, but this one it's a good option for sure. And like I said, it's really good for financial planning for the future, like bringing in the retirement and your investing, where the other one, I was like, EveryDollar is not as good for that.
Yeah.
It doesn't monitor that as well.
So it looks like the next one you researched was personal capital.
Yes. This is also really good for like investment tracking.
Bill reminder.
Yeah.
Great.
I need that.
Yeah, it has a bill reminder on it. So yeah, the next one is personal capital. And it was really good for like investment tracking as well, where some of the other ones weren't really great for that. And especially if you're in business, like you have your business and you need to track like what your net worth is and calculating all that stuff for like personal financial statements. This was really good for helping figure that out. It's also really good with retirement planning. It's less focused on budgeting. So if you're starting out, you want more personalized, like individual stuff, this is not going to be the one you want. This is more of like,
Giving you an overview.
yeah,
Just
more
letting you
of
know
a-
where you're at.
Yeah, so it's not going to be, you're not going to set up a budget inside that this is just like investment in personal financial statements, that kind of stuff.
Does that one have a fee? Do you know?
That one does have a fee too. I don't know what the fee is, but it does have a fee. Pocket Guard is the next one that I looked into. It does your budget. It's really good for budgeting. It's really good for expense tracking. And Ashley, this is the one that has the bill reminder, which is really nice. So if you are, getting ready.
I'm about to have some bills.
Yeah.
I'm about to have some bills.
It's nice to have that reminder sometimes.
I'm going to be so offended.
Yeah.
Why do I have to pay this? Why do I have to pay water?
Yeah.
Water should be free.
That's important. I think, especially someone that maybe you're living a little more paycheck to paycheck, to like really stay on top of your finances, like what bills are coming up. That's important. It's really
It
good.
should never surprise you when the bills are due, but it always does. Every month it surprises you. Like, oh, yeah, that's right. I got to send in my lawn.
Oh, I have a mortgage.
But it does. It comes up fast every month. And you're like, oh, I need to get that done. But having that reminder is kind of nice.
I have to pay my interest here tomorrow for my construction loan. And I'm like, I just did that.
Yeah. It comes up fast.
Polly, dang it.
And this one was really easy to use too. It was simple to use. It focuses on helping you not overspend. So like you said, Jared, like if you're the person who's living paycheck to paycheck, you want something to help you save or start saving, this is a really great option. So this Pocket Guard is good for that. It's less of the future focused and more of like the next 3 years or
So if you're just getting started, this is probably a really good app for you, for sure.
Yes. Yep. Another one was Good Budget. Now this is essentially Dave Ramsey. Like it's taking the envelope system, but it's making it digitalized. So you set up your,
That's really cool.
You know how we were talking about we would monitor our spending, but we like to use Jared and I like to use a debit card, and so this would be really great for monitoring that. So it takes all your spending and categorizes it, so we would know right away.
I like a
That'd be
debit card
fun.
too, Jill.
Sorry, Ashley.
But I think it's almost kind of a more modern way of the Dave Ramsey approach, which I think feels a little more practical.
It feels a little safer too, I think,
Yeah.
because in our last episode we were just talking about cash, and like that's kind of not very practical, I think, to just like cash your paycheck out and then put it in envelopes. I mean,
I'm kind of eager to try it though.
I'm eager to try it, but yeah.
I think that could be a good one.
Yeah.
To try if we're doing it that way.
Yep,
than
for
cash.
sure. Good budget would be the way to go, to page it digitally and keep your envelope system intact.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Looks like a con of good budget though is there's no bank synchronization.
No, you
and you
literally
got to do the manual entry.
Yes, you have to go in there and record every purchase.
But I do think there's something to be said about manual entry though, because then you really do. It's like you spend it and then you have to go back in and type. It's like the walk of shame to your budget app. Like, oh, I spent $50 at Dillard's. It's like, I got to put this in here. And so it almost.
It does what cash does, where you have it in your hand and you have to manually give it. You like feel it leaving you.
Feel it when you type it in. You're like, I did that.
I spent that.
I did that.
Did your parents, were they big on check registry? So every time they write a check, they would track it with, when you were in elementary school, junior high,
only
did you
a
do
check.
that?
They would do a checks, but like some of my friends' parents, they'll even if they Polly too. If she uses her debit card, she puts it in her check registry.
And
I
that's
don't
what-
get the point.
It's the same thing, right? So it's
kinda
actually, it's not, it is tracking your spending. And we got so far away from that when we went, had debit cards. I remember when their debit cards weren't even a thing, right? So you wouldn't even be able to use that. So you'd have to physically write a check or pay with cash if you had a bank account. And so I feel like once debit cards came into play, we got away from it. But I think like this good budget is the way to go in. Like you said, it makes you physically remember every purchase. Walk of shame, right of shame, right?
Right,
Like,
the type of shame, really.
yeah.
I'm into this. I'm going to try it.
I think I'm gonna do it too.
Good. So not everybody is probably looking for the same type of app. Like my favorite right now is going to be that you need a budget. That's probably what I'll go into and get next. It does cost something, so there's no free. So that might deter people away from it. There are free options. So I think for me, that's it. But you have to determine what's most important for you. So like Jared, if you want to, that good budget, if you're looking to track your expenses, that's for sure the one to go with.
Yeah. I like the good budget and EveryDollar. I like the simple and easy to use.
Yep.
So I like all these tips for how to choose the right app for you. So identify your needs, like you said. Read reviews.
There's a lot to be said about a good review.
There's a lot to be said.
Yep.
So read reviews, look at what other people are saying. Try the free versions.
Many of them offer a free version.
Free
or
version.
like a trial version.
But nothing makes me more mad when you forget to be done. Like if you don't want it, delete the app and then they charged you the annual fee. That happened to me on an app and I was like distraught. I was like, I'm bankrupt. Like,
Well, it's kind of nice to be able to try a few first too. Like not be before you start to pay for something. It's nice to try out a few and see if it actually works for you, and then you can cancel them. But free version is a way to go while you're testing it out.
and then obviously consider the cost. Like we've been saying, can you justify the cost? Are you going to use this app enough for you to pay however much it is every month? $4.99, $29.99. I don't know. It just depends.
Yeah.
And then check compatibility. So make sure that app, if you are needing this part, that it synchronizes with your bank and your all your bank accounts and your cards and investment accounts, because that's a big one for a lot of people.
Yeah, and some apps,
Especially like the older you get.
aren't offered on iPhone and Android. Like you have to make sure that it's compatible with your device that you're using and you're logging into too. Like whatever you're carrying around with, you want to make sure it works with it.
Yeah. And then last, evaluate security. We talked about this, but make sure that whatever app you're using, remember these are your finances.
Yeah. And
So-
that you're essentially giving that app login capabilities for all of your personal finances. So think about that. It's
Yeah,
gotta
that's
be
really scary.
safe.
That's where reviews are important. Like what are people saying about the security of it? Are they known to be super secure? If you're seeing reviews and there, it's like, this is not
Not where to go.
Don't do it.
Well, then that just like goes back into the customer service part of it. Like, is there someone you can call if something does go bad? Because that would be scary.
Yeah, for sure. So once you do decide on an app, like how do you maximize the benefits? How do you know that you're getting the most out of the app as possible, and go through some of those tips too? I think that's smart to talk about.
Yeah, I think definitely regularly update your information. So if it is a manual one, make sure you're doing it. Put that in. Keep all of your account transactions up to date, accurate insights, all that.
Yeah, if you're not willing to go in there and update it, then it's not going to work out. I mean, you got to do the work.
What's the point?
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Another one would be setting realistic goals for yourself. I think a lot of times when you are first getting started, you kind of have to learn how you're spending and learning what is the appropriate budget for your lifestyle, and then kind of cutting it back that way. But it's kind of a process.
Yeah, I definitely think you have to stick with it. Like consistency is key. So if you have 1 month, it's your first month trying it out, and you're like, I don't know if this is for me, try it at least 3 months. Because I feel like that once you develop those habits, those behaviors of manually going in or whatever it looks like to use the app, you'll see more progress for sure.
Also, you're not going to get a good snapshot of your finances with just one month, because there's some months you may have taken a vacation, so your spending is going to be much higher than that, or you had to buy a bridesmaid dress that month. Like, I don't know. So really, like, the longer you use something, the better look, a more clear picture you're going to see at your finances when it takes the average of all of the things that you spend your money on.
Yeah. Another great tip is to review your reports. So like these apps are giving you these reports. It's valuable information. You need to do the work to go in and actually read them, like analyze what the reports are telling you. Review them quarterly, whatever it looks like to you. Maybe it's once a month. Try to understand what your financial forecast looks like or what your financial habits are. And going in there and reviewing it's so important.
Stay consistent, just like we were saying, making a point to check. If you're not checking the app, then what's the point, right?
Right.
So you could say something like, every Thursday I make a point to look and review all of my information, like that kind of thing. Or you may want to check it daily too.
Yeah.
Especially if you are a business owner and there's a lot that's like moving and you're doing a lot of spending, then it probably is a lot more wise to check it every day. But just developing those habits is going to be super important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think last, just take advantage of the alerts. I think that's a great way to maximize your benefits. If you got a bill due, let the app tell you it's due.
Yeah. Stay
You've
informed.
exceeded your budget.
You're done.
Done. Low balance. Sorry.
Insufficient funds.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
No, but I think personal finance apps are a great tool that aren't utilized enough that all of us could take advantage of and move your money more effectively. Just give it a name, monitor where it's going, and hopefully it'll help you out.
Yeah, I think if you want to be successful, tongue tie. I think if you want to be successful in your finances, I think I've read something before that's like you need to spend at least 9 hours maybe like talking about your finances or looking at them. That might be a little much, but I feel like that's what the number is. And so I think an app is like a good starting point to financial wellness for sure.
Definitely.
Because if you don't, it's kind of like the thing, if you have a goal, if you don't write it down, you can't see it, maybe you might not hit it.
Right.
Same thing with the apps.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm for sure going to download at least a couple of them.
Yeah. Check them out. Do the free trials at least.
Oh my gosh. After this, Jared's going to download all these.
I'll give you a scoop next
charge
episode.
Him all at once.
Well, we should choose an app and then do a report on what we thought
That's
of it.
what we'll do.
Okay.
I like it.
Stay tuned. That
Stay
episode
tuned
to come.
for that.
Well, any other tips you guys want to leave with our listeners today about personal finance apps?
Really, you just got to find the right one for you, like your lifestyle. So when you do research, hear reviews from people that want the same things that you want, that are those important things. So
I would say also like if it is just a free one and that one works for you, don't feel like just because something's $29.99 that might not work best for you. So it's like you said, just do what works for you. If it's the free version, it's something super simple and that's all you need, then that's all you need. Do that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thanks you guys.
Thanks, Jill.
Yeah, it's fine. Hopefully you'll download one today, right? Okay. Thanks for listening, you guys. We'll see you next time.
So Jill, where do we go from here?
Be sure to check out our show notes for this episode, and also be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.